Dead Dealer is a fictional character that first appeared in a painting by the renowned artist Frank Frazetta. The Dead Dealer is a menacing figure depicted as a horned, skull-faced warrior clad in a dark armor, wielding a bloody battle axe while riding on a horseback. The Dead Dealer has since become an iconic figure in fantasy art and has been adapted into various forms of media, including comics and novels. Frank Frazetta created the painting Dead Dealer in 1973, and it is one of his most famous works. Frazetta was known for his incredible skill as a fantasy artist, and the Dead Dealer is a perfect example of his style and talent. The process of creating the Dead Dealer painting likely involved several steps. Frazetta was known to start with preliminary sketches, which would help him work out the composition and details of the piece. Once he had a solid sketch, he would then move on to creating a more detailed drawing or painting using reference materials to help him capture the correct detail of the figure, horse, and weapons. Frazetta often used light models for his paintings, and it is possible that he used a model or models to pose for the Dead Dealer character. He would then work on the painting, layering the colors and creating the dramatic lighting and shadows that are so characteristic of his work. The final result of Frazetta's process was a striking and iconic painting that captured the imagination of many fans of fantasy art. The Dead Dealer painting has since become a classic image in the fantasy genre and continues to inspire artists and fans today. The character was later featured in several other paintings by Frazetta, each depicting the Dead Dealer in various battle scenes and menacing poses. The origin and backstory of the Dead Dealer character was not entirely clear, but it was generally believed to represent a powerful and fierce warrior or a mercenary who deals death to his enemies without mercy. This iconic character has transcended painting, appearing in various media. One of them, where its lore has been explored the most, has been the series of novels written by James Silk. In it, readers are introduced to the protagonist, who goes by the name of God of Baal. In the book, he is a tribeless barbarian in a large forest that after the end of the Ice Age will one day become the Mediterranean Sea. When the Mongol-like Kitsak horde invades the forest, several sides try to enlist God's help to defend against them. One of them, the beautiful sorceress Cobra, gives God a helmet possessed by the god of death. The helmet grants him divine power, but at the same time it attempts to bend God to its will. With the help of the worldly wandering artist Brown Young and the virtuous young woman Robin Lake Hare, God managed to control the helmet and defeat the Kitsak horde. The other medium where we can find out more about this character is in the comic book adaptation published by various publishers over the years. The exact plot of the comics varies depending on the specific series or issue, but they generally follow the adventure of the Dead Dealer as he battles various enemies in a dark and violent fantasy world. In some versions of the comics, the Dead Dealer is portrayed as an alone warrior who roams the land seeking out battles and challenges. In others, he is part of a larger group or army fighting against evil forces or defending his homeland. The comics often feature brutal and bloody battles, as well as supernatural creatures and magic. The Dead Dealer is typically shown as a formidable and almost invincible warrior, using his skill with a battle axe and his fearsome appearance to strike fear into his enemies. Overall, the Dead Dealer comics are a continuation of the iconic image created by Frank Frazetta in his paintings, and they offer fans of the character and the fantasy genre more stories and adventures set in the same dark and violent world. As mentioned before, in addition to the comics and books, this character has appeared in a multitude of media. For example, the image of the original painting was used for the cover of Molly Hatchet's debut album. Since 1985, the Dead Dealer has been used as the mascot of the 3rd Corps of the United States Army. A life-size metal statue of the Dead Dealer stands outside the 3rd Corps headquarters building in Fort Hood, Texas. The statue was an exact replica of a piece sculpted by Randy Bowen and produced by Dark Horse Comics in 2003. 2 full-size painted resin statues are on display in the atriums of the 3rd Corps headquarters. Also, the United States Marine Corps Helicopter Squadron BMM 164 has the Dead Dealer as their mascot. In addition to several references as in the manga and anime Fist of the North Star, that one artwork featuring the 2 characters is directly referenced from the original Dead Dealer painting. And in the scene of Ralph Bakshi animated film Fire and Ice, in collaboration with Frank Frazetta, the Dark Wolf character sits atop a horse in the iconic Dead Dealer pose. The Dead Dealer's influence can be seen in many areas of popular culture, including film, television, comics, and video games. For example, the character's appearance and style have been referenced in the design of many fantasy villains and anti-heroes, including several representations of the Dark Lord Sauron from The Lord of the Rings. Frank Frazetta's painting Dead Dealer is a masterful work of fantasy art. The painting showcases Frazetta's incredible skill in creating dynamic composition, dramatic lighting, and a sense of action and movement. The Dead Dealer creation itself is a visually striking and memorable creation, with its horned helmet and dark armor. Frazetta's attention to detail and use of light and shadow give the character a sense of weight and presence, making him look really impressive. Beyond the technical skill on display, the Dead Dealer painting is also a work of great emotional impact. The sense of danger and violence is palpable, with the character's bloody axe and the horse's wide eyes adding to the overall sense of chaos and mayhem. Overall, Frank Frazetta's Dead Dealer painting is a tour de force of fantasy art that has had a profound impact on the genre. Its combination of technical skill, emotional impact, and memorable character design have made it an enduring image that continues to inspire and influence artists and fans alike.